What is good, everybody? In today's video, I want to discuss today's topic, which is entertainment and how awful it is. Entertainment sucks, and I want to really tackle the idea of quality, standard, what is expected, what is to be expected, and the fact that it seems like things today is either peak or trash. Now, as a fellow creator myself, if you guys don't know, I write, draw, and produce a series called Night of the Horizon, and when I talk to people about the series who have read it, most like it, but there's a few people though that like downright dislike it, but like strongly though, as in like they point out all the flaws. I recently seen that Invincible is getting a season 4. How? Your guess is as good as mine. That show is absolutely garbage. Season 1, fantastic. You can argue that season 1 was the best the show is ever gonna get. Season 2 and 3 was very difficult for me to get through season 2, and I did try to watch season 3. I watched the first episode and I almost threw up and I got a headache and I turned it off and said I can't do this. You can argue with me though that the comic is fantastic. I'm not gonna read the rest of it because I think Invincible is only worth the first 2 volumes. Those are pretty great, but after that though, I think the story takes a really bad turn. Like I said, I don't like Invincible at all. Not to get away from topic though, like I said, we're going to discuss today modern entertainment and the fact that it's either peak or trash. I want to talk about standards first and foremost, right? Like what is to be expected from a show, right? I think it's right that people expect competency. For something to be competent, right, it needs to have most elements to something that would be considered good. And I'm not just talking about movies or animation, I'm talking about TV shows, comic books, I'm talking about cartoons, I'm talking about video games, movies like like your Marvel films or Disney films. Nothing is seemingly competent anymore, or rather it's competent in a way where like it looks visually nice, but it's incompetent in terms of the story, the quality of the cast, the quality of the acting. Like I recently watched the new live action Lilo and Stitch, and I was gonna make a video on it, but I didn't think it was anything to really talk about because everything was so bland. I am 95% sure that they just took the sound bites from Lilo and Stitch, like the cartoon, and dubbed it in for the live action, because what else were they gonna do? Every actor was very one-dimensional, especially Nani. Nani had no acting range whatsoever. Competently, Stitch looked great. Competently, the film looked great. Competently, the actors, most of them looked great. And I did like the neighbor character. I thought she brought something new and fun to the story, but it never expanded though on the world of Hawaii or anything of the sort. It kind of just followed the beats of the old film, except it was all rushed, much like the modern movies of today, right? Fantastic Four, when that got announced, they had only a year to film, or rather 6 months to film and 6 months to edit. I haven't seen Fantastic Four, but I knew from the trailer though that it looked rushed, and I knew by the production that it was going to be rushed and it was going to be lackluster, and that it was, just like I think Spider-Man's going to be. They're talking about we got Punisher and Hulk in the movie. Why would you announce production? Okay, same thing we've seen with Wolverine and Deadpool, and they put out these incompetent movies of just slop, and I think that a certain quality should be expected. Next topic, has everything already been done? Many times companies with that would argue that people don't want something new, and that goes into the topic before of competency. People would accept new things if new things were good and competent. New things are not good and competent, and instead are quite divisive. I can't really say what has come out that was something new, because I'm not really familiar with anything that's new, because I think that all this stuff is just garbage. And you can perhaps argue that my perspective is disingenuous, but I always go off with the trailers, and the trailers tell me everything I need to know, and usually the trailers do not get me excited for what is to come. Like I said, I don't know what has come out that has been new, but I imagine though that has not been good or great. Everything that I've been seeing that's been coming out has been awful. It's all just been slop, soulless, and perhaps I have seen things, but I just cannot remember them, because I think we all can agree that the stuff that comes out today is completely forgettable. I'm trying to even think about modern games that I've played. I can't think of anything that I've played that just wasn't completely soulless, incompetent, absolutely devoid of creativity, and infuriating. Getting back on topic though, has everything already been done? This is something that I struggled with as well with my story, because I tried very hard to be unique, and I was searching around, looking around, see what other people was doing, and how could I be different? How could I stand out from the crowd, from the group, from the competition, if you will? Even my most genius ideas, I seen that somebody has already done it, which halted the production for a while, because I really wanted to come out with something truly spectacular and something that nobody has done before. All right, but I don't think the goal though is to be, to reinvent the wheel or recreate sliced bread or recreate a new form of bread or that, but more so just taking what already has been done and just changing it to the best of your ability. For example, I love apple pie. I also love cinnamon buns. What if somebody took cinnamon buns and filled them with apple pie filling? And what do you know? I'm scrolling through the gram and I literally seen this genius of a woman make such a thing. thing. It was called apple pie cinnamon rolls, and it looked absolutely, I was amazed. And that is the essence of creativity. Taking something that already exists and combining it with something else, and boom, you get something new. The companies that would argue though that people don't want to see new things. Move on to the next topic. Audience sensitivity. I think a point can be made that audiences have become very soft, right? In terms of like something always offends somebody, and everything is kind of now made for everybody. Now this goes into another topic of, you know, how I feel about modern audiences, people trying to please everybody, and I think this really stems from the Marvel Cinematic Universe making it a place for everybody, which I think is incredible, but the long-term ramifications though has been nothing short of detrimental, because you don't know who's a fan anymore of anything, and these so-called fans aren't really fans, they're just bandwagoners, train hoppers, right? Here for a good time, not a long time, and they'll leave just as soon as it stops being popular. When the real fans though have always been here, will be here. They've also started to lose these core fans because they're just putting out slop. You see it with video games, you see it with cartoons, dare I say you even see it with anime especially. Like I've almost completely stopped watching anime entirely because the fan bases really just ruin it, especially My Hero Academia, man. Oh my goodness, My Hero Academia fans ruin everything. Audience sensitivity, meaning like for example, comedy movies, you can't be funny anymore because jokes tend to be from a negative place. You'll risk offending someone with like a certain joke or like a race joke. We've seen it with a lot of stuff. I can't name anything in particular off the top of my head because I'm just kind of going off of my thoughts here, but comedy isn't really funny anymore. Action is very surface level. Thrillers, I'm most certainly not a fan of scary movies, but I see that most scary movies today aren't even really scary. They don't ever push the boundaries of anything. It's always like the go-to is kind of like blood, screaming, demons, stuff of that nature isn't very scary, or it's already been done, so it just comes off as boring and devoid of any creativity, and that's unfortunate. The last topic here I want to talk about is creative indifference, or in other words, too many cooks in the kitchen. One particular thing that comes to mind is Sweet Baby Inc. when it comes to the gaming industry. We know that in the production of Spider-Man 2, Sweet Baby Inc. came in and changed things around. That's why we got all those hideous costumes. The story was lackluster and devoid of anything creative. The tarnation of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, the complete degradation of game as we move forward with the story. Miles Morales was the best part of that game, hands down. He was very well written, very well rounded, but that was done on purpose. Mary Jane and the character models being changed for some odd reason to suit more hideous, genetically ambiguous female characters. We see that also too with the Wolverine Logan trailer with Mystique. I don't know if I'm gonna buy Wolverine because I've been anticipating that game for so long, but Insomniac though has lost my faith. They have lost me, maybe not completely, but they've lost me immediately getting the game. We know it's gonna be $70, and I don't know if I'm gonna pay another $70 for absolute slop, because we got the story leak. I wasn't too fond of that. We learned that they're also gonna make an X-Men game. I don't particularly like the X-Men. I really don't, you know. I like the idea of them, but I think that like they're just not really well written at all. You have a bunch of overpowered mutants on one team that do nothing, and there are no villains, and they're always in the Savage Land, and everything is kind of political with it's just a whole convoluted mess. During these production sequences though, right, it takes years for these people to even come up with concept in general, because everybody has to kind of agree. I guess a prime example that I've also come up with, the production of She-Hulk, because we've seen what that room looked like. It was a bunch of women, and I think it was like one male acting specimen inside the room, while all these ladies sat around and talked about their livelihoods and put their livelihoods into the show, trying to seem #relatable. And the results were as follows: a complete garbage fest of incompetency. I'm not exactly sure what She-Hulk was. It was funny, but for all the wrong reasons. And I think if like there was like less writers and more focused writers, and writers who cared about the characters that they were actually making and understood the characters, because even the chick who, like the main writer, said that she doesn't even read comics, or like she did at some point, just like James Gunn, who claims he reads comics, but he also came out recently and said that he's read a few comics and that he doesn't even like well-known characters. He likes to like I've said, they always go to look up the most obscure of characters so they can do whatever they want with them. You know, James Gunn said that he can't do the One Piece show. I would not want him to anyway, though I think that would be up his alley as well, because One Piece has so many obscure characters, but he wouldn't follow the actual story though of One Piece. He wouldn't understand it, just like he didn't understand Superman. With that being said, guys, this is some of the reasons why I think modern entertainment sucks. In terms of the standards, I don't know if they're too high or too low. I think that a certain standard of quality should be always expected and then exceeded. Has everything already been done? Yes and no. I still think that you can take two things that have already been done, or multiple things that have already been done, and create something new, which is exactly what I've done with my story. Again, titled Night of the Horizon. As always, it is linked in the description down below. Please go check it out. Just dropped the 9th chapter. It's amazing. It's awesome. You will absolutely not be disappointed. Audience sensitivity, you know, have audiences become softer and less receptive to new ideas? Yes, but only because everything has been broadened out and attempted to be made for everybody, and you simply can't please everybody. So you should always keep your core audience in mind, right? And always put them first if you want to have an expected result. Creative indifference, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm not saying that there should be less or more people. I think that everybody should kind of be on the same board and have a vision that makes sense, right? So if Insomniac told CBB Inc. to get out, perhaps that game would have been absolutely spectacular. Probably would have got DLC. We probably would have gotten a whole lot more suits. That game was a complete scam. That's all I got for today, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Again, make sure you guys go check out my story, Titled Night of the Horizon. As always, it is linked in the description down below. Make sure you guys check it out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.